Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Debate Hub. I'm here. I've got Generic Minority. I've got Bearded Heretic here, and I am so excited. This one's going to be so much fun. Both of them have some education of some kind in a field that is relevant to psychology and the way people think and how you become a psychologist. No, a conspiracy theorist in the first place. I'm Chesh. Welcome. Hi, guys. How you doing? Did you get your audio fixed there, Generic?
I have no clue.
You're good.
Yes.
Yes.
Right as we were
Power on,
starting.
power off. Literally just reset.
Wonderful. Let's start with Generic. How are you doing? And then we'll go to Bearded Heretic, because it's been a while since he's been here.
Did you say bearded generic tick? That's hilarious.
Did I? Whoops.
A little bit. That's a Freudian slip and a half. Speaking of psychology, I'm doing great. I chose violence this morning, and I've been going through with that, so it should be a fun show, especially with Heretic, because Heretic's way smarter than I am and knows the technicals.
And I guess that's what I'm good at. I suppose. Yeah, I'm doing well. It's been a long day. There's 2 days in a row where I've had to be up at 5:30 to go due to work stuff. So that's been painful. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is the first stream I've done in a long time. So go easy on me, guys.
I'm excited to have you. So we'll be nice. We'll be relaxed. I don't think there's anything that either of us here terribly disagree about. So we're mostly going to be talking about right, the nuances of conspiracies, because we're all from different places of the world, right? You two are educated. I am not educated, but one of you's from UK side, like overseas. One of you's from America land, and I'm from Canada land, and all of these things are kind of just different depending on where you go and how they affect like the social constructs that we live in society. Life and things happen. So birds are the government?
Birds are the government.
Yeah, they're spies. What do you mean? They're spies for the government that help control the weather. If Alex Jones has taught me anything.
That was the reason for lockdown, wasn't it? Because they needed to replace the batteries.
That's the best explanation I've heard for that one yet.
Have you not heard that?
I didn't hear that.
No, I've never heard that. That's hilarious.
I think the biggest conspiracy theory that's recently been going around is the eclipse, right? That just happened.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any.
I don't know what that was about. It was kind of weird.
The eclipse or the conspiracies around it?
The conspiracies around it. I heard that there was something going on. Everyone lost their minds for like a day, and I absolved myself of all that nonsense. And I'm just like, whatever people are talking about, I'm avoiding it because it's clearly dumb. It's just an eclipse. And then the eclipse happened. At least for me, it was overcast here in upstate, and so it just got pitch black for about 5 minutes at 3:00, and then it was done. So
I slept through it.
I don't think we had it here.
Oh yeah, it might not have been a full eclipse for you guys. It would have been Western Hemisphere. So the Westerners were all like, we're going to get raptured. There's aliens coming through. And meanwhile, the UK is like, there's not even an eclipse here. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I think the last eclipse that I remember, it was in like 1999 or something.
It happens every 18 years in various locations. And so like the next one where we are, like Generic and I are not that far away from each other. We're in the same time zone. The next time it's going to be for us will be 18 years from like yesterday.
Oh.
Or sorry, no. Yes, I think that's right.
Yep.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think so.
Don't confuse me on dates. Yeah, yesterday was the 8th. I'm crazy enough as is. I can't have you. You're the one that knows time. Bearded is the one that knows good words, and I'm the crazy brown guy that has like weird life experience. And that's what our dynamic is.
So, just to get into it a little bit, conspiracy theories in associating natural phenomenon with events or like a thing that's happening and applying it to either religious concepts, spiritual concepts, or concepts of like aliens or like another supernatural thing. That's been through the ringer, hasn't it? Historically.
Yeah, it started back. I mean, at least as far back as anyone likes to talk about, with like pyramids. It's like no way humans could have built it. It had to be aliens, and it's like no, it's like we had stuff back then that could do it. But even religion in and of itself, it's been hybrided into a lot of like good fiction. If you've ever seen like what's it called? Oh my god, it's gonna kill me that I don't remember the name right now. It's like a Oh my god, my brain just shut off. It's a YouTube series that it basically espouses that angels come from aliens, and so like the first angel who talked to the Virgin Mary was actually an alien who was like trying to corrupt the world with its seed of evil or whatever. But there's like that's
Huh.
been around for a while. Oh my god, I can't remember the name of it. I'm gonna look it up in between when someone else starts talking.
Is that
But yeah,
that's not Zeitgeist, is it? Because Zeitgeist was that big conspiracy YouTube.
No, it's not. It was something that was
Sound.
reviewed on Game Theory a while ago.
Oh
Uh,
God. Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
It's not a theory.
That's
no, there's no those don't exist anymore. He's not around. He left. He left us.
Oh,
Our sweet boy left
oh,
us.
so people that are in the West attributing the eclipse to the rapture.
oh.
I
Are they?
I've
Are
never
those
known
people
of
still
it
here?
correctly.
Yeah, as far as we know, that nobody's gone. Everybody's still around. I personally like the theory that nobody's a good enough person, so there are only like maybe 5 people will go missing out of like a whole ass section of the planet, and they're gone and nobody really noticed because we're all shit.
This isn't the first eclipse in our lifetimes. Like,
Correct.
so,
Yeah,
like,
it's
what was the last eclipse? If this eclipse is the rapture,
18 years. I mean, we have lunar ones all like a bunch. So it's
I
just it'd
love a
be
lunar eclipse.
yeah. We had
That's
anytime the blood red moon comes out, people are like, it's either God or Ultimate Warrior, one of the two, and then they lose their minds. So I don't.
How do people get like into that? Is that like I know religion is kind of like the easy get out of jail free card, right? Because like
Mhm.
that's been happening for a very long time. But they're not the only ones doing this. There's like so many like what's the word I'm looking for? Political conspiracies that have existed
Mhm.
for a very long time. You've got your 9/11 truthers, you've got your flat
Mm.
earthers, you've got people who think the birds are surveillance.
Yeah.
JFK was a big one. People who still think Hitler's
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
Elvis.
COVID deniers in the most recent one, like the mask are killing you. It's
5G
the the 5G gives you cancer stuff
birds with
as well.
batteries.
Yeah.
Bird, yeah. Typically you find that people fall into that because of a lack of education, a big deal of the time, a lack of knowledge, or like even worldly knowledge. They just don't know how things work, and instead of going with the like, okay, maybe there's just something I don't know, I need to do research on that, they will fight against it and espouse that it would be something more. If it's something I can't explain, it has to be something much greater than what it actually is.
And I guess that comes back to our need as people to know things and feel secure
Yeah.
in that knowledge. So, like, I think that's one element that is like, I think that I guess there's three that are like uh, seen as the three main causes of believing in conspiracy theories, and one of them is epistemic like
Mhm.
issues, where people need to know stuff, but they don't necessarily have the education level to
Mhm.
to make those decisions. So then they get their information from unreliable sources, which usually are quite extreme, and then that fills in those gaps, and then they have to cement that because
Yeah.
because
It's
otherwise it's a question, isn't it? Like, what is
right.
the eclipse? you know, like
Yeah, and then more too on top of that, it's a human beings really like closure. They really like answers
Mhm.
to their, like you said, really like answer to their questions. But they also, a big thing that people don't talk about, but it's true, they really like whatever they're most comfortable with. It's why religion, you have the Old Testament and New Testament, because there's a version of it that's way more comfortable than the other kind that it started as. And why certain other religions get like poo-pooed by people because it doesn't change, it doesn't make itself more comfortable for you to enjoy. So in situations with like conspiracy, you see a lot of like, that's why you get all the overlap, because it's like, well, this is the most comfortable answer for me, this is the one that makes me feel good about what I believe. It's how you can get people who can believe in flat earth, and then the people who believe in the donut shaped earth that's surrounded by a glass orb. I think that one, I had an ex whose mom believed in the hollow earth theory, and then she tried to
Mm.
explain it to me, and it just hurt my brain. Uh, but
Wait,
yeah, it
King
usually
King
comes from
Kong
that.
is in the documentary.
No, not this time. Although I did
Oh,
prefer the one with Brendan Fraser, The Journey to the Center of the Earth.
that is good as well.
That's a good one.
I've always been partial to Discworld. Um, Do you guys think that there's more conspiracy going on, or more conspiracy theorists now than in the past, like, I don't know, decade, 2 decades?
I I think that there probably isn't, but the way that they can communicate has become more prevalent. I guess
Right.
actually no. I think that hardcore conspiracy theorists, like people that have multiple
Mm.
different conspiracies that they're kind of believing, they're like QAnon type, where it's
Yep.
like everything's a conspiracy. That is, I don't think that's changed. I think that that's probably around the same level. But I think that there's a lot more people that are buying into fringe ideas around certain things, like the vaccine, like COVID and stuff like that, because of the reach and I guess actually, like, if you were to just hear their arguments without having any prior knowledge, then they don't sound unreasonable. Like big pharma making money off of dodgy vaccines sounds
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
reasonable. Like, but then when you start to look into it and you start to realize that actually they've been working on these kind of vaccines for years, and this is just like, it just happened that actually the timing was quite good, which is a good
Luckily.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
um that starts to unravel, but without that knowledge, it's really actually like, a lot of people just were misinformed and just told the wrong information, and then I think that led to an increase in conspiracy theorists, but like not hardcore ones that are like, the ones that are like, there's reptiles
Yeah.
leading the world and stuff like that.
I
Who
think
is it?
it's
Bill Gates and George W. Bush are lizard people.
Well,
yes,
and Hillary Clinton and the royal family.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's always
Everyone in
something.
power.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a big thing in conspiracy theories. It's like if you don't agree with it, then you're part of it. But the to answer your
Matrix.
previous question, yes, to answer your previous question, it's I agree with bearded heretic in this, but also a little bit of it is oversaturation. Just like with everything we have in media now, because of the access that people have, is that I do believe, like, like you said, the QAnon and all those people have always existed, right? And there have always been people, we all have family members like that who believe some nonsensical thing, and it's just now that they have the access to a group of people who like-minded people and can have that echo chamber, it's, I mean, if you were to speak into an actual chamber, it would sound pretty loud, and so that's just the small group of people that have always kind of been a little bit of nutters who will now have a safe space, ironically, for them to espouse about nonsense, and then you just hear it now because we have this oversaturation. Everyone gets to have an opinion on the internet. Everyone gets to say, and if you tell them, like, no, what you're saying is wrong, I can prove it with facts, then, like we said, you're just part of it.
Personally, I don't think people have figured out social media yet. We haven't figured out how to navigate that, how to regulate it, how to, like, how much should you be on it? How much should you not be on it? Should you guarantee this? Should you guarantee that? Should the company be regulated in this way or that way? I don't think society's figured out how to deal with that overstimulation yet. Is that just a me thing?
No, but I don't. I think
No.
that a lot of people in power don't want to. Like for instance, the Brexit vote was heavily influenced by social media.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great documentary, and this ironically is an actual conspiracy that actually happened.
That's the thing. Conspiracies are real, right? And
Yeah,
they're
they are
usually
real.
predicated on some true information.
Yeah, so so basically the Leave campaign did loads of research. They bought into an American or they hired an American company to do market research on Facebook and basically send ads to people who wouldn't normally vote, that were like terrifying, like, it's an invasion, all the immigrants are coming and stuff like that, basically to get them to go out and vote
Like
Leave. And
flooded them.
that's yeah, and that's what that 2% of people who wouldn't have normally voted was the 2% that swayed the vote in favor of
Right.
Brexit. So in order, so social media sells things. It makes a lot of money and it makes very strong political decisions. So people in power, I don't think, want to regulate it, because if they regulate it, then they lose that. If they start doing
They can
funding
do what they
into
want.
how much,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like so it's such a strong tool for them. That
I
I think
imagine it's also like a strong tool for the country that you're not even in, right? We hear
yeah.
about, like, a lot about of interfering with elections, or like even me having a political opinion about America's politics is me being an outsider looking in. And
Right.
imagine I'm somebody in power with a whole lot of money that I can just throw at a giant marketing campaign that's just gonna, and bots that are gonna flood people's. But at what point, how is that not harassment? I mean, I imagine it is. If you're flooding people with fear tactic propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, it
well,
should like you'd think that should be illegal, right? But
You would think.
It should be, but it's not, and more importantly, it's just extremely abusive to the just the individual and the whatever, you know. It happens a lot in America. You talked about Brexit, but then we had, you know, 2016 throughout the course of ironically today, of that whole range of time where people were just like inundating on social media with like, you know, immigrants are coming across the border and this and that, you know, and just pushing ideals and things that were not facts in any way, shape, or form. It's just that it's the thing you believe, and the answer to it's the comfortable answer to this thing you know nothing about. Like, why did I lose my job?
It's
Immigrants.
easy.
Oh, it's the easy way out. And social media is like, people, one, a lot of people aren't trained on it, and two is that, like you said, you know, people aren't, you know, truthfully mature enough to handle being on social media consistently. And instead, like a child, when they play a game, you over and over and over again, they just sit there and they play the game all day long. So it's very insidious, it's very abusive, and it's a method of controlling, very 1984, you know. So,
and this actually, you know, when that information gets put in someone's head, if it's extreme information, like, you know, like the immigration stuff that happened in America and the UK with regards to votes and stuff, that is really hard to undo, even with facts after the fact. Like, in order to prevent that from happening, from that misinformation from being effective, it has to happen before the misinformation is given. Right. You have to prime people to be suspicious of extreme messages. Otherwise, it just sits there, and then as soon as it's in there, it's like cemented in, and all the defenses go up, so that's why when you're like talking about like giving facts to people and stuff, that doesn't work. You know, we've all had those conversations with people who believe in flat earth or whatever. It doesn't matter how much demonstration you show them, they do not budge, except in a few cases.
Yeah, does that mean that there are people that are more prone to falling into this conspiracy theory kind of hole than others? I'm sure everybody could fall victim to it, but
yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is self-esteem. To be honest, there's a certain like social element to conspiracy theories where, you know, it's almost like this wanting to feel important or wanting to feel valued, and where do you get that value? You get it from a group of people that share your beliefs and understand you. And sometimes that's not easy to find in society, so you kind of join a group that does it. And that's why some conspiracy theory based communities kind of resemble cults. Like, and I'm not saying they're the same thing, but you get that very much, like, you know, that inside outside viewpoint. We'll always care for you. Get that like love bombing stuff. All of that stuff happens within certain conspiracy theory communities as well. And the idea is that they then feel important. They feel like they know something that other people don't. They feel like they're important to that group. You know, so there's all these layers that self-esteem. If people have low self-esteem, they're way more likely to be lured in, I think.
Yeah, it's also the, like you said, not, you know, they have information that other people don't have. That goes back to the lack of knowledge thing. Now they can espouse about how much smarter and more clever, and how it's also like it piggybacks into what you said about confidence issue, because and you know, self-worth and things, because they'll go as far as to bind themselves to it on an emotional level, and then if you question it, it's an identity. And then on top of that, it's if you don't, I look back at like Kyrie Irving, right? Like, he had the whole flat earth and the, you know, anti-Judaism stuff. And he's just like, no, y'all just don't. It's very typical in like the Nation of Islam and like community of being like, no, you just don't do the right kind of research type of, you know, mentality of that. No, you just didn't look what I looked up, so you don't know.
Nation of Islam, just a funny thing. My ex-landlord, so yeah, my previous landlord was the British like like the British person of Nation of Islam.
Oh no!
Wow.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
this small world, man?
I was just
No.
no.
I
I
know.
know that
And he was
community
really
very
trying
well.
to get. What's the guy's name? The guy that is the
Farrakhan.
head. Yeah, he
Farrakhan.
was trying to. He was trying to. He's banned in the UK, and this guy was
Yep.
like adamantly trying to get him over to the UK to give speeches and stuff.
That's
Oh,
a terrible
do
idea.
talks.
He's a horrible speech giver, more so than anything. He has a very horrible pace and cadence. It's very useful in a church sermon, but he's supposed to be anti-Christianity, ironically. But he piggybacks off a lot of that old like Southern African American like preaching of the style of the cadence and things of that nature, but he just espouses about things he doesn't know and half researches and talks about the Great Wheel. I know. Unfortunately I was raised Muslim, so I grew up in New York City, so them standing on a corner slinging bean pies with their pink bow ties, telling me, "Brother, you need to do your research and you don't need to." I've seen a lot of it. I can only imagine being British and having to deal with that.
I mean, even recently, Shadversity came out with a video where he's complaining and trying to pressure people to give him money about his YouTube channel. And he's straight up implying and inferring that there's some shadow in YouTube purposefully trying to take down his channel. Not his political one. He's like, my political one's doing great. My political comment. I feel like, to me, it just came off as like just an attempt to justify a grift that he's planning on doing.
Shadiversity is the best example of someone who should stay in their lane.
Tell me more. Yes, go on.
Like I'm pretty sure he really understands how to use swords. He doesn't understand anything else. He's clueless. Like he like, oh god, there was the biggest fall from grace. Like I was like, oh yeah, I watch Shadiversity talk about swords and Dungeons and Dragons and blah blah blah. Oh, this is fun. And then like suddenly he's like anti-trans, and I'm like, what? And then all of his arguments are the worst arguments, and he's so adamant about it. And it's like, oh man, just why? Why did you? And now you're and I've seen him complain about like the hate he gets, and it's like, well, you're kind of inviting it. You're inviting that criticism because you have rubbish arguments.
Rubbish arguments, and then even worse thought processes to get to just even the argument. You're arguing about a thing that is a horrible thing to even stand on the side of in the first place. Like even just a minor thing. We watched a video a while back when he was like, women don't know how to use bows because their arms aren't strong enough. And it was like, what? That's not how that works at all. That's not how bows work. I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate. Not gonna lie.
Just stick to
that
swords.
bow over to
and
stick
also
to swords. I hand my bow over to Shadowheart. Yeah,
use your back to
I got a quote. We got a question for the chat from Caden that says, "Why do people believe in conspiracy theories? And why do people who believe in conspiracy theories always use outdated information?"
Outdated in
like, as in, like, oh, we're gonna look at this study from 1984 rather than whatever the current science or the current information is saying.
That will be because the in order to justify a conspiracy theory, you have to cherry pick information a lot, and there's always going to be some sort of scientific research
in retrospect
that kind of says what you want it to say. Like it might just be the phrasing, and actually out of context it doesn't say that, or in context it doesn't actually mean what they're saying. Like a lot of Jung stuff, for instance, like, you know, like he was very mystical and all this stuff, but you could easily take a Jung quote out of context and it would say something really, really bizarre. But actually in the context of what he was saying, it's like it makes sense, you know.
We got generic.
Oh, well, I was also going to say, like, the reason why they utilize a lot of outdated information is because there's the lack of extensive research. Usually it's like, well, we closed the book on that. And, you know, like you said, you're going to cherry pick pieces of it anyway. So you only pick the parts that validate what you're saying, that maybe, like, you see a lot of time they're the ones that are, like, kind of, that get the answer of, like, well, we're not 100% sure as to why this is the way it is. But it's more than likely this, you know, because you can't say anything is 100%. You never know why it's going to happen. It's just, it's not how science and English never mix. So when you have that,
sorry,
that goes to the key point. It's like, because science and English never mix, and you can't say conclusively, even in psychology, you can't say for sure, these are the kind of symptoms and things, and, you know, things of that nature. But you never go full full ham on it because it could be anything. And that's where you get a lot of like, well, we stopped researching that because it's really hard to find it. It's like Lou Gehrig's disease, it's like you could say it's like because you struck out against the Sox, but we didn't do enough research on it, So it's the big reason why they pick those is they'll pick spots that are then not researched, or ones that even if they've been debunked 10 times over, it just supports their opinion. And any modern research, they push it away because you'll note they'll count it to like wokeism and yada yada yada. It's always something other than hey, we know better now.
How do you feel about things like people like Russell Brand and like your Joe Rogans pushing like very very silly things? Like, so you've got these big name people people who were used to be quite larger names, kind of pulling this kind of a grift.
I think
take your time.
So I used to so Russell Brand is, for a period of time, was very outspoken in terms of his like politics, and what he was saying kind of made sense. Like he was advocating for the working class and stuff, and then he kind of moved into this like kind of conspiracy zone. And I think what he does is he chases the money, like, or chases the views. Like Russell Brand is really focused on his image. Like he's so image conscious, and so it's very clear that he's like validated only by how popular he is. So I think now that he's found kind of like for lack of a better term, like a messianic position in a certain group of people, he's in his element. There are people that are literally kind of like worshipping him in that sense. Joe Rogan, I think, is a stoner who loves to talk bullshit, and I think that's literally it. And I think I think that if you actually sat down and had a serious chat with him, a lot of it he'd be like, no, it's like it's bullshit. But he just likes to smoke weed and go, what the fuck? Like,
well, what about this or what about that?
Yeah, but the problem is he has such a big platform that people think, oh my god, anyone that comes to Joe Rogan is exactly.
That's Joe Rogan's. I just had an argument with my niece's dad about this, and he loves Joe Rogan, but we've had back and back talks about it. And I go, I could, if you stuck me in a room with the most woke person that is also my best friend, or Joe Rogan, and to have a beer with him, I'd probably sit and have a beer with Joe Rogan because the conversation would at least be funny. But like you said, he's just a stoner who he's a middle-aged white guy a stoner who likes to espouse on things like, oh, why can't, granted, I'm speaking as a minority. He had the whole thing of like, why can't white guys use the N-word? And it's like, yeah, I get what your thought process is, but you have to remember we've talked about this before. It's like you have a really big platform. So you have to qualify your statements or at least make things very clear. He doesn't do that because he's in stoner thought, or smooth brain typing. He's just saying words. And another big thing he does, he allows, it's the Aaron Rodgers effect. He just allows whoever's his guest to just talk because he wants to do the like, oh, fuck, oh shit, I never thought about that. But really, he's not actually thinking about it. He goes home and he goes back to he watches reruns of Fear
out of his brain immediately. Yeah.
His big. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say he and his guests. I think he just gets weird people on. He gets like, there's no reason why you would get people from Ancient Aliens on your show, but he gets them on his show because they have a weird view, and he's like, I want to explore this weird view. But it's not legitimate. It's not legitimizing the viewpoint. It's just him chatting to someone he finds interesting because he can afford to fly them across. But the viewers
take it as if it's a legitimate point, and that's a problem. Now, is there even anything he could do about that? Is like the way he presents his show maybe? Oh, just stop.
Stop doing.
I think
what he's doing.
Just do it in your living room.
Yeah, exactly. Just fly people over and have a chat with them.
You don't have to broadcast it.
Well, if don't broadcast it. If we're gonna go the route of like real things he could do, it would be to do research instead of like, we can talk about things. And he's like, he had the best one that he had was I think it was Bill Burr, who was on it. Was just like, Joe, we're comedians and dumb talk people. Shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's why I don't talk about the mask. Yeah, sure. We don't know everything. So, having people who or more people around who would, tell him like you're an idiot. But more so, like Bearded said, just stop having a show. You could, or have a show where he brings in multiple people who have differing, like people that oppose that as well.
Yeah.
It could help at least rein it in. Like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he does sometimes do that, but I think that the problem is that then it appears like it's that whole like, oh, if you platform two ideas on the same platform, it's the Ken Ham and Bill Nye debate.
Right.
It
gives
appears
legitimacy
like,
to the one that's no good.
Exactly, yeah. It appears like, oh, this is worth debating because there's two ideas that are being debated here, and I mean, I think that that's fair, and like a lot of people have that opinion. Let's just debate it, and I'm like, okay, but also like, why?
There's a reason why I have no interest in platforming anybody who's like Nazis or Holocaust denial. Yeah. I'm like, there's no reason to platform this. I can appreciate somebody confronting somebody who is a Holocaust denier who is like tries to be underhanded about it and not talk about that, and then confronting that individual, but not to have them on to talk about that. Like, why? It's invalid. It's from the get-go. It's not even worth discussing.
Well, that's also, he has to set that, anyone in general, if you're even going to have any kind of show, you have to set that standard as to what's invalid, and it's usually based around what we know. Like, all right, we know Nazis are bad, denying the Holocaust is bad, don't let them on your show. Denying, letting RFK on to sit there with his, smoker's voice to talk about how the vaccine is bad. Don't let that dude on. He's never known. Letting Jordan Peterson anywhere talking psychology doesn't even have any of the credentials anymore because they got taken away from him. Like, you don't allow him on. He's not a psychologist. I'm more of a psychologist. I have a goddamn bachelor's and I worked with kids for half a decade, and I'm more of a psychologist than that guy. So, like, if you're not letting me on, you can't let him on because he's literally got that right taken away from him for being a nut. So that's a big thing, is like not allowing, especially people who are completely invalid in their field.
And Bill Burr is right. Like, Joe Rogan being a comedian, Bill Burr being a comedian, us being some assholes on YouTube. Like, there are ways to interview and talk to people, but this type of platform, this isn't the way to do it. Because all you're going to do is, because what is that going to do? What does a conspiracy theorist see when somebody of their ilk gets onto a large platform? That's all part of the psychology of the way it works.
Yeah, it's validation.
Yeah, that's like we said, you don't want to give them a platform where they can feel like, oh, this is a legitimate debate. I mean, I personally find debates in their current state to be like useless. There's much more room for like discussion, but interpersonally, I think that's better. But if you're gonna have the you bring people on to talk about things, then you have to establish. We do it here. We establish our level of credibility. I said I'm a top tier condescending psychology clown because that's technically what I am, and I'm a former teacher. Like, my level of expertise has its limits, and I don't act as if it's higher than that. We speak on what we know and kind of the vague things around it, and there's technical terms and things, but we never say this is the hard bone facts. These are some of the even here we're like, these are some of the reasons why someone could potentially fall into conspiracy theories. Not like Beardy goes, they fall into conspiracy theories because they drink too much lemonade, and I go, interesting. Like, it doesn't. It's
the Kool-Aid.
It's silly. Speaking of Kool-Aid. All right, it's not Kool-Aid, by the way. It's apple juice.
Mine's empty. I got nothing.
Aww.
So sad.
Ooh. You normally have a dark and stormy.
Ooh. Don't tease me.
Don't call me by my Saturday name.
So when it comes to like the indicators, right? Are there any like is there like a checklist that you could kind of point to that isn't obviously not completely accurate? It's not going to be 100% every time. But is there like a checklist you could go through about like a belief that you have to say, is my belief about this valid? Where you could kind of go through.
Yes and no, at least in my opinion. It's kind of hard to that checklist is internal, but it's still always going to be based on, at least for me, it's still always going to be based on what is known reality. You look at it and go, okay, I'll give an example, at least based around me, just because it'll kind of level what I'm saying. I grew up in New York City, and a lot of what I saw growing up was neighborhoods I grew up in would get bought out, by big companies, and those big companies would usually have some like Rosenblatt, Goldstein, something like
Mm-hmm.
that, Jewish. And in my head as a kid, because I was a dumb kid, I was like, "Oh, Jewish people come out and buy your neighborhood and kick your family and your friends out." And so as a kid, I didn't like Jewish people. And so I was like, because that's what they do. That I have to move from my home with my family that I love because of Jewish people. But it's like that doesn't make any sense. It's just this circumstances that as I got older, I started to go on the checklist and also meeting Jewish people. And so you run down a list of okay, that's not a thing that happens. That it's just only Jewish people that own property management companies. First thing off the list. So that two everything was getting more expensive anyway. You run down the list of logical factors that lead to things becoming the way they are in your area. Why is the price going up? Because that's probably a factor. That's a thing we know in reality that is a factor as to why neighborhoods get bought out. Not just, oh, well, I saw Goldstein on the end of the thing, so it must be, Jews run the media, yada, yada, yada. No, it's,
Don't be lazy.
well, don't be lazy. There's inflation, there's, crime rate and all that. Yeah, there is some propaganda that's spread by New York Police Department that I hate. But also, there's other factors. Why are we treated like thugs? There are other factors outside of that that lead to that. But keeping that same base thought is where you start to get into the conspiracy theory aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think there's a couple of things. I think that what Generic Minority was just talking about is kind of similar to what's called the Socratic method for like breaking down your beliefs. Basically, I think everyone has beliefs that are completely irrational and make no sense.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think just to throw it out there, like it's completely normal to have these strong beliefs that aren't true. It's just that conspiracy theories take it to another level, right?
You're right.
But I guess breaking down, questioning certain things around stuff like that and breaking it down step by step is street epistemology, but the important part is that, and what street epistemology doesn't do is thanks is build it back up. So you got to build back your belief afterwards, otherwise you just double down, right? So
right.
That's something that I think is important. But I think the other part is if your group are telling you that everyone else is wrong and they isolate you and you isolate yourself and you don't look at different sources for information, I think that's a big indicator that your belief is probably unfounded. I think that in order to have a well-rounded kind of structure of knowledge and structure of belief, you have to look at different sources of information. And if people are saying like, don't trust NASA, don't trust the pharmaceutical companies, don't trust the news, don't trust this, just trust us and our sources and this ancient study and all this stuff, because these are the only things you can trust, that screams to me that there's something up. And I think that if anyone is in that position, like absolutely, you just need to go, okay, why is it that I shouldn't trust these people? Like, what is the actual reason? And I think always asking that question, why, is a really key part of it, because that helps you break it down. Like, why would NASA do this? Why would go all the governments in the world hide the fact that the Earth is flat? And it comes back to this, usually it comes back to this idea of control. They want to control you, and they want to control your thoughts, and they don't want you to know what's going on. But then why do they want to control? Like, why do they want to go to that level?
To what end? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like layers to it, So I think it's just about kind of really digging deep and just analyzing kind of objectively.
Sar in the chat was saying that they have a bit of a rule of thumb to help avoid conspiracy theories, and they wanted to get your guys' opinion about the more people that are needed to make the conspiracy work, the less likely it is to be true.
Absolutely. The more people that it's like, if it has to be like we were talking about flat Earth, it's like, oh, the people who make globes and NASA, and it always has to be this big. And it's like, once you start to get into this, it's just not financially or economic viable. It doesn't make any sense. Like you think of it, I always put it in the term of like, think of multi-level marketing. It's like, if I set up my 3 friends and they set up their 3 friends, X amount of cycles later, we run out of human beings on the face of the planet to put into our upside down pyramid scheme. And yes, I've been shown an upside down pyramid and told it's not a pyramid scheme. And so that's a whole thing for a different debate show. But that's for me at
Is it
least.
still a triangle though? Does a
It's a
triangle have
it's
three
a
sides?
and I'm not BSing you. It's some of them call it a dimeripe. It's the opposite of a
Mm.
pyramid scheme.
Ah.
So yes, that is a thing. It's still a
Mm.
triangle. Jesus Christ. Somebody would say that. But yeah, for me, that's a big point of contention to it. It's like, okay, if you're saying this is whatever your theory is, it's like, okay, well, think about what that would involve. Like we were talking about, like when you break it down into its core components, that would involve these group people, this group people, this group people, and you start to run out of it. Okay, how much it would be so impossible to keep a conspiracy like that. How could you keep it going for that long with the advent of technology and just how we've progressed as a society and our knowledge on things, our knowledge on the human body, even conspiracies as far as like something simple, right? Like the mob running gambling in sports. It's like, you don't think that really happens anymore, do you? Because it's way too multinational businesses involved. Do you think crypto.com is running around with
The
mafiosos?
one that
No.
kills me is like the idea that during the Cold War, Russia and America agreed to fake the moon landing together. Like, no, they didn't. No way. I refuse to believe they would get along well enough to do
Well,
it
and
and not just sell the other one out.
but this is the thing. So in order to hold that belief, you need to add another layer to it. You need to add
Yeah.
the Illuminati, right? You need to add another organization above the two fighting forces and say, well, this is all planned. And then it gets even more
Right.
complex. Like and then all you have to really do
Mm.
is look at how inept politicians are everywhere.
Yeah.
To realize that actually none of them know what the fuck they're doing. and,
Yeah.
and if they're that inept,
Doing my
the
best,
conspiracy
sir.
would fall apart. Like it'll just fall apart because they don't know what the fuck. Like the British government at the moment is the most inept thing I've ever seen, and there's no way that an Illuminati style or organization would create a government that inept because it's
Yeah,
just
it would be much better at doing what it's supposed. It would be 1984. It would do a much better job at presenting itself in a way where its control is supposed to be comforting to you. Instead, we have a bunch of governments where it's any kind of control it has is met by people being like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" Even positive or
How do I even
negative.
hold all these lemons?
But God damn it, lemons.
we, we
But
we had a prime minister for 40 days or something stupid who
Mhm.
crashed our economy just by giving one budget. And I'm sure there's people that are going,
Oh
yeah,
no.
that was intentionally done, right? But it was
mm,
she just fucked it massively and absolutely tanked our economy in 40 days and then left and then came to America and started doing speeches about bazookas. Very embarrassing. She was
It's
like, "We
okay,
need a
so
bigger bazooka."
tell me
It's like,
if I'm off base here, but is it just me or are conspiracy theories like one person who's very good at rhetoric to become a cult?
yeah, it works similar to religion. That's why you find a lot of religious people who fall into conspiracy theories because it only takes one powerful voice to legitimize it. Even just a lot of people who espouse about just things that are just terrible, not even conspiracies, just terrible stuff on the internet. What's the big thing they do? Have a very specific cadence, a very specific tone, the way they carry
Mhm.
themselves. This faux moral high ground of like, well, I don't curse and things of that nature. It happens in everything, in politics. And so it only takes one kind of charismatic, Jim Jones-esque nut job to, or Osho, who ran the cult that took over Oregon and in
Yeah.
that little town in Oregon. It only takes, he wasn't even that charismatic. He was just a guru and people felt comfortable being like, yeah, meditating and being within myself makes me more complete. And also, if we want to poison the water supply with salmonella, that's cool too, I guess. It only takes that one nut to turn you into a Snickers bar.
It only takes one note to go from a Mars bar to a Snickers.
Or yeah, it takes one nut to go from a Mounds to an Almond Joy.
So how does any of this apply to like your like celebrity politicians or like your Elon Musks and like the people who like that cult of personality and the conspiracies around like, oh, but Elon Musk definitely bought Twitter on purpose and is driving it into the ground on purpose. Definitely 100%. He has a master plan to get us to Mars.
I think that celebrities like that capitalize on the especially Elon Musk. I think he capitalizes on that kind of drama, and I think he makes a lot of money from it. Like if he comes out and says, "I'm going to get us to Mars," there's going to be lots of people that are like, "Wow, that's amazing!" And
but when Newt Gingrich says he wants a moon base, everybody's like, "Haha, you're an idiot."
Well, yeah, but I guess the thing is with Elon Musk is he has done some of the stuff that he said. Well, his companies have done some of the stuff that he said he was going to do. Like Tesla exists, right? Like, yeah. Well, this is the point. No, but this is the point, right? Yeah. He does it to a point where the more
doesn't enough
extreme stuff seems rational and stuff. I mean, the best example of the kind of snake oil salesman that Elon Musk is that time when he threw the rock at the what's it called?
The Cybertruck car.
Cybertruck, and it smashed the window, and it was like, oh no, that wasn't meant to happen. Right?
Well, there's like a really big misunderstanding. Like cars and trucks are supposed to crumple. They're supposed to have crumple zones, so the fact that this truck is driving around with almost no crumple zone is bad for everybody.
It could hurt people. Yeah, it could hurt people seriously. But I guess he does stuff that seems doable. He seems ambitious. He tells people that the reason that he can't do something is because of other people. Like the reason that he can't do this like tube system that he wants to do is because of the local government. When actually it's because even if you had that kind of system in place, the trains wouldn't be able to go above like 30 miles an hour anyway because
unless you built a subway.
Well,
this sounds boring.
It's just a subway, or call them tubes, but that's all it is. That's all it is. It's just a fancy one. But they because of corners, they can't go faster than a certain speed anyway because they have to turn. So it's just not possible what he's saying, but he just seems he's quite. I think he does a good job of being convincing, and then blaming it on other people. When
I've noticed that the more he talks, the less good he sounds. Right, so like a good couple of years ago, I'd be like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Now I've seen some of his stuff, and he just seems to be getting more and more like fringe. And the more fringe he gets, the more his fan base kind of like it gets smaller but more intense.
It's the Joe Rogan effect. It's like, oh, I know something you don't know, and this guy's really smart. So if he's saying it, he must be smart. And if you don't listen to it, then you're not smart. It very much is a lot of it. A lot of it goes really back to what Bearded had said at the beginning. It's your confidence within yourself. Why you notice like that big uptick in conspiracy theorists was 2020. We were all trapped in the house, just being inundated with nonsense and feeling like I can't even go outside and talk to people and yada yada. You can't bounce off ideas and meet other people. Then the world became a little bit more, closed in, especially in America, because I had to work during COVID and people refused to stay in their house. They want to jog and stuff like that. So then you have the battle between the two sides, and it's just always a mess. And with that, you always, like I said, you have your Jim Jones-esque cult leader, your cult of personality, someone who is just, whenever they're pushed, they're railed against, even if what they're doing is completely illogical, doesn't make any sense, what they're saying doesn't make any sense, any pushback that they get is always, and you'll find this in a lot of things, especially on the internet, is always like, it's always played as an attack. It's an attack on my beliefs and my this and my that. And it's always very malicious, even though
the paranoia
victim,
part.
yes, the victim complex, and that it comes with it. Now I'm just cutting my thought off, but it always that helps people more feel like, oh, I'm being treated badly, so this group of people will treat me well. It's a lot of identity politics and like rhetoric that is the worst parts of other things like religion and cults and things like that all get like thrown into like a pot together to stir up to make the perfect conspiracy theorist or leader of a like cult leader. And Elon Musk is just like, he stumbles ass backwards into a lot of it because he just so happens to be a guy who shoots rockets off into space relatively successfully. So it's annoying and it's just dumb. And people, once again, he's known to be a smart guy. That's always a big thing. Like the same as Jordan Peterson, he's known to be a smart person. So therefore, whatever he says, oh, he must be. And if you don't agree with it, it's because you're not as smart as him. Look, he's a doctor. You know,
who are you to question the smart person in the room?
Right. Yeah. What do you know? You only have a bachelor's, which I always get the psych stuff talking. You only did this. Okay.
Ironically, it's a really weird two-way street with celebrities at the moment, especially celebrities with really out there like political and social views, because you get the there's so much more saturation about what they think and what they believe now, more than ever before.
Yeah.
You kind of like Elon Musk, like, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever, was still about doing stuff, still running his organization and all that stuff, but he wasn't as public facing.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone kind of had the view that he was a smart guy that did awesome stuff with technology. He took Tesla's name for his company, and that was really cool because Tesla is like known to be like an ousted like physicist and stuff like that. But then when you start to and say like when you start to see behind the curtain, it's kind of like, whoa, okay, actually, like how many massive figures in history have been this like unhinged and damaging?
Well, he wants people to like associate him with somebody like Tesla rather than Ben Franklin.
Right, but I guess like if we had seen behind the curtain on some of like history's politicians in the past, they would be just as weird and just as like unhinged and just as like controversial, and people would have been like, actually, we probably don't like some of the old prime ministers or presidents or whatever. Actually, we don't want them to be our main politician. I mean,
there's a difference between like being just kind of wacky and crazy, but still being like good or healthy or useful in general, versus being actively harmful. Like, does it really harm anybody if X person thinks the Earth is flat? Probably not, as long as they're like you're not a big enough group that's starting to affect education or legislation. Not really much of an issue. But when you start grouping together, it get too big.
Yeah, well, it's even with celebrities who fall into that. Like I can give a celebrity with a big platform who spouts nonsense all day. Shaquille O'Neal, if you watch basketball, he thinks the Earth is flat. He thinks you can fly to the moon in like 2 hours or something like that. He said something wild. He was like, it'd take like 10 hours to fly to the moon. And literally on live TV, they're there to talk basketball. On live TV, everyone called him an idiot. All of his co-hosts called him an idiot. And then they were like, no, that's not how that works. Just keep playing basketball, dude. And then one of the producers stay in your lane. And then one of the producers in the back was like, yeah, it'd take like 3 days bare minimum or something, whatever. They put out the actual numbers. And he goes, I'm sorry, America. It'd actually take this amount of time. But he'll every time he'll say something where you're like, what are you talking about, Shaq? That's not a thing. Someone will call him out on it. And then he'll be like, oh, I don't know. I just play basketball all the time. And so it's fine as long as you have the checks and balances to it. The problem comes in, like Bearded said, you'll have communities where there are none. It's just they're allowed to go.
That's what I like. I don't mind like somebody who's got like some cool kooky ideas that he spouts off all the time, as long as they get checked in a reasonable way that matters. Right, so with Elon, he's not getting checked. Like Don Lemon did that interview with him, and he just went off and asked like a basic question. He's like, "We're not friends anymore. Better be careful." I feel like as soon as you're making threats in response to a base ass question, you're probably lost this conversation.
Yeah, lost.
Yeah, and I guess as soon as you have billions of dollars, like you're no longer in a position where people can challenge you.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, there's this thing, and you can kind of expound on this for me, because there are conspiracies out there, the ones that matter and are big and are very problematic, that are verifiable, and like taking the collective effort of conspiracy theorists who are really deep into things that who the fuck really cares, and directing them that direction would be a big deal. You would think. especially with like the amount of money involved in some of these things. Like you've got your big pharma stuff, you've got your Elon Musk wanting to buy weird shit and what he wants to do with it. You have like your, oh, all the rich people want to buy like bunkers and leave the rest of society to go fuck themselves. Like that kind of stuff exists to a degree. So like why not go for the conspiracy that's there?
Because once again, feeling like you're sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say because it's not the truth.
The leg, the V. I told you the V.
You go first. You go first.
Well, so it's twofold, at least from my side of it. It's the one, I know something you don't know. Everyone knows Hollywood's full of scumbags. Like the Cat Williams interview, everyone knew all this stuff was going on. No one, everyone's like, yeah, we know. And then it comes out and it's like, oh, I didn't know it was that bad. But when it comes to that, it's always, well, I know something you don't know. And then on top of that, it's that level of conspiracy that, like, the perfect example of being like, it's a well-known fact that Hollywood makes movies that are going to fail on purpose to save themselves money. Everyone knows that. No one ever does anything about it, right? Because it's much more comfortable to know that that's going to happen, and maybe if we're lucky, someone gets an opportunity that they wouldn't have ever got to direct something that you have.
Sure, not all of them necessarily need to be stopped, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not all that bad, and they're so people just kind of go like, all right, these ones are bad, but if we know these ones are going on, then there has to be worse ones, because these would look how big this conspiracy. If the entirety of Hollywood is making movies that are going to fail, then they must be doing something else. And there's probably like a handful of people that are doing something terrible, and they probably talk to amongst each other about it. But other than that, no, it's probably just this minor money laundering nonsense that they do. And so it's really always big on the I know something that you don't know deal. Like even just they'll avoid common things that are part of, like I said, things that we know that people do, buying bunkers and redistributing wealth and trickle down economics. And we know all these things. Why would we go about fix? That's hard to do. We know what the problem is and we know how to fix it. That's really hard. Instead, let's talk about the Illuminati, a thing we don't really know if it exists, and I'm pretty sure it's the bad guys of Resident Evil 4. Let's talk about that. Like because it's something you can't possibly solve. Therefore, you don't need to actually put in any effort to it, because all the things you could solve are hard to do. They're systemic and they take time and effort and patience and real change. And it's better to just talk nonsense and then hope you strike on something that will resonate with people. And then at that point, you're just playing off a platform.
And I guess all I'd add is that I don't think, and I guess you actually implied this, generic minority, but the point isn't the truth. The point is to find easy answers to difficult questions. Why is it that I'm so poor? Well, it's because of this conspiracy. Why is
self-satisfaction?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it's just about like putting one, building your self-esteem, two, finding community, three, explaining difficult topics in easy to digest. Like it's the same thing. Like when we talk about religion, God is an easy answer to a difficult question. Why do we exist? What is our purpose? Yeah, God is a really easy answer to that. It fills in that gap. So I think
it's morally lazy as well, because you can say, well, God said this was bad, therefore it's bad. Precisely. I don't have to consider it any further than that.
Precisely. Right. So when we have these conspiracy theories, what you'll find actually is that the evidence for them is very easy to find, which wouldn't be the case in an actual conspiracy. Like journalists uncover actual conspiracies. Those conspiracies are very difficult to uncover. They have to do undercover research. Sometimes. They have and dangerous, exactly. So there's like if I guess if the evidence is easy to find, then it's like
not much of a conspiracy.
Exactly. Yeah, you go out and you look and the horizon's flat. That's easy evidence to find that the Earth is flat, right? But like, and then you can just say NASA's controlling us.
We got a super chat from Jens that says trolling has always been the main force behind online conspiracy theories. Thinking about like 4chan, Anonymous, and QAnon. You guys find that the that trolling plays a pretty big part, at least in the online sphere?
Depending on the conspiracy, I think a lot of it in the modern day, I think a lot of it is because you have like voter subversion, where they're now saying like, oh, if we lose this election, it's because there was mass voter fraud. It's just like, it's a way to muddy the water and annoy people. It was like Donald Trump and the Republican Party's like whole platform the past few years, of like introducing a nonsensical theory in order to delegitimize the things that they're doing
Well, that was
wrong.
Dinesh D'Souza's whole
Oh, don't
like fake voter fraud documentary thing.
I hate that. I could not be in a room with him ever, or I would start punching and I don't know when I'd stop.
He's pretty bad. I don't know why he has a platform at all. I don't know why anybody bothers.
Because he was banging Laura Ingraham. But that's where's the lie? But like I said, it becomes it's the 4chan trolling thing. It is part of it because it's part of that. Like, you want to deliberate. We were just talking about Elon Musk. What does he love doing? He loves muddying the water and trolling people and adding, like Beard said, and like we were talking about, it's hard to find the facts to these things, and it requires, effort and focus and danger. And it's easier to just throw mud and sling shit at things because it'll annoy this person, and then when they go to argue with me, they'll just be upset and they'll come from a place of anger, and that means that their argument is invalid. That's why, once again, they always play the calms and peaceful, like, I don't understand why you're upset about it. It's like, well, you just kind of said, gay people control the media, and that's just stupid, or whatever. You said some dumb thing, like, and it's meant to annoy me, and it's meant to piss me off. You got what you wanted. Now, fuck around and find out. But then if they find out, it's just more part of the conspiracy. Oh, it's just them against me. That's always what it is.
What do you think, Bearded?
Yeah, I guess it certainly fuels the fire. I'm not sure if I wouldn't say it's the primary force. I think that conspiracy theories, especially at the moment with all the misinformation that is perpetuated by like big people who may or may not have an agenda, but I think that trolling exacerbates the issue more than it causes it. I think that it's interesting that, like, there are some conspiracy theories that have come out of 4chan and QAnon and stuff like that. But and actually, the bird one that I said earlier, that was someone trolling. Yeah, it led to a bunch of people believing that believing that conspiracy theory, right? So I think, but actually, what I think what happened with that one, actually, it wasn't that they were trolling. It wasn't that people believed it, actually. I think what happened was that people were like, how could people believe this? So it was almost like a backwards like thing where people were like, I can't believe people are falling for this. So falling for it. But I think conspiracy theories would happen anyway. Like the moon landing happened like way before like trolling happened, and I'm sure there's some people that just say, oh yeah, the moon landing's fake as a joke. But
do you guys want to know my horribly unprofessional opinion about the question about QAnon?
Go for it.
Trolling doesn't make more conspiracy theories too much, or more conspiracy theorists. What it does is it encourages platforms to push them more often.
Yeah.
So when
trolling's going to get you in the engagement.
It's going to get you the engagement. It's going to get you the numbers. It's going to get you the money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think that's where that's the real niche where the trolling really comes in, and where it's like valuable to conspiracy theorists and to the trolls themselves. And they do invent some silly, like, not like to see how far the person's gonna go, right? But it doesn't matter because it's a grift for the person doing the talking. And it's just like all the conspiracy theories people who are already conspiracy theorists, regardless, getting caught in the crossfire.
Yeah. I think there are some really horrible like discrimination at the core of a lot of that stuff though. Like, like in order to like for instance, the reptilian thing that we were talking about earlier is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
Originally,
and I think that like that, like a lot of the, and it's quite shocking actually when you like kind of dig deep into a lot of these conspiracy theories. A lot of them start from like anti-Semitism or racism. And that is at the core of it. So even if it is trolling, it's still like it's kind of perpetuating propaganda like intentionally. So it might be done to annoy someone, but the core of it is like racist or anti-Semitic or sexist or
normalizing things like that, dog whistling as well, ragdoll.
Precisely, yeah, yeah.
Well, we should start to look to wrap up. We've been over an hour.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we can always do another one. I'm more than happy to have you guys come back and discuss it a little bit further. But I do have one more yes or no question for you guys, and you have to answer with a yes or no. All right?
Okay.
Agree?
It sounds like that's a leading question. Don't fall for that one, Beard. No,
I'm gonna fall for it. I'm gonna see where this goes.
I'm gonna let you answer first.
Does young Earth creationism count as a conspiracy theory?
Oh. No. Wait. No.
Okay.
I can expand if you want.
Let generic answer first. I did say yes or no only, so
I know, that's why I'm like
Hmm?
Yes. I'm gonna put yes and no together. No. No but. That's all I want to say. No but.
No but. All right. Bearded, do you want to elaborate, and then we'll let generic elaborate, and we'll get on out of here?
Yeah, I guess like for me, like conspiracy theories tend to be about powerful individuals or a group of people that have some sort of like nefarious like want to nefariously control people or something like that. I guess there is a sect of young Earth creationists that say scientists are doing that, but I think the majority of young Earth creationists say that God presented the world in a certain way to make it look older than it is for whatever reason, or that science is just wrong. So I think that unless God is the conspirator, it wouldn't count as a conspiracy theory for me. It just
is. No, unless this caveat.
No, unless they think that scientists are intentionally lying to the population. Yeah,
I think there's a pretty common thread in a lot of young Earth creationism. At least the people who propagate it.
Yeah, I mean that was the no but for me. It's like no but. It's a slippery slope, right? If you're going as far as to like discount science, and you're saying scientists are part of the plot, or and adding more like gaslighting and all those things like that. Then that's when it starts to become like that. But if you're just like, it's the same as Shaq believing the Earth is flat. I don't care, dude. Go hoop up. Put ball in hoop. That's fine. You can keep
swing sword, Shad. Shut up.
Swing sword, Shad. Put ball in hoop, Shaq. Swing sword, Shad. That's a tongue twister and a half, and we're good. But once you you could believe the Earth is only 6,000 years old or how much ever it is, but like, just keep that to yourself. And it's just like you can feel however you feel. It's about the harm aspect, though. Beer, you touched on that of how much harm it brings to people. And you mentioned it earlier. How much harm does your belief bring to other people or to the people around you or yourself? So if you just believe Earth's only 6,000 years old, I don't care.
So we're going to look up to wrap up there. I'm going to ask you guys where you're from, where people can go and find you. There are links as well down in the description. Thanks so much for joining us. I will point out, when it comes to young Earth creationism, whether or not it's a conspiracy, how do they write off that the scientists are working for God in the cover-up?
God spawned them in like Call of Duty.
I'm just saying.
As someone who has a lot of Christians in their family, it's literally God spawned them in like Call of Duty, like spawn camping for the scientists. They only existed 6,000 years ago when I went ping and they existed.
Yeah. See, this is a I think a cultural difference, because I think that the young Earth creationists in the UK are a lot more like scientists are wrong rather than scientists are wicked.
Oh, rather than they're hiding.
There was a really interesting. There was a young Earth creationist I knew who was doing an evolutionary biology course and was like, "Yeah, I understand all this and I can see why people would believe it. Yeah, I just think it's wrong.
It's wrong."
And I was like, "Okay, well that's fair. Like at least you're looking at the data and not being convinced by it." Yeah. And she wasn't like anything's nefarious. So I think that might be a cultural difference.
That's really interesting. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Where do people find you?
Twitter mainly sometimes, and I've got YouTube videos, but I haven't posted on YouTube in ages. So yeah, bearded. It's just bearded heretic. Just look up bearded heretic.
Links down below. Generic.
Yeah,
it's literally the exact same thing. It's just not bearded heretic. It's generic minority. You can also find me on Twitch. Occasionally, I stream doofy games and make fun of them. So you can find me on that. It's Daddy Generic Minority on Twitter, or not Twitter, on Twitch, because I'm a jerk. But yeah, Lincoln is in the description.
Just
all that
being
stuff's
difficult on purpose.
Yes, yes, because someone else has the name Generic Minority, and I was like, I'm definitely older than that person. I'm their daddy.
How could something like that have happened? I do want to point out that I did have this saved up for everybody, so anybody who's managed to stay to the end, thank you so much, and you get this special play.
Is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.
Goodbye, everybody.